Helen sat at the corner of the coffee shop, absent-mindedly stirring her herbal tea as the warmth from the cup seeped into her hands. She was 52, a stage in life renowned for its trials of shifting temperatures and unpredictable emotions, points often readily attributed to menopause. But for Helen, something more unusual was at play. In the beginning, there were subtle changes, fleeting mood swings that cast a shadow over her once consistent demeanor. Friends would note that her laughter seemed a little vacant and her responses, sometimes clipped with an edge of irritation that hadn't existed before. And as weeks turned into months, the changes became even more pronounced, seeping into every interaction she had. Her husband, James, was the first to mention the possibility of menopause. "It's that time, isn't it?" he'd mused over evening tea. Helen wondered if it really was just that. Yet, beneath the surface of domestic tranquility lurked an unsettling tension. Helen couldn't shake the feeling that something was purposefully intruding into the fabric of her emotional landscape. Little did she know, it was engineered, a sinister manipulation orchestrated by the one man she least suspected. You see, James had carried a secret burden of resentment over the years. Helen's career had flourished, eclipsing his own professional achievements, and for him, the constant comparison was like slowly poisoning their relationship. The bitterness took root, and where once flourished respect and companionship, there grew envy masked by feigned indifference. James began a seemingly innocuous game of emotional manipulation. It started with tiny insinuations about Helen's abilities, her reliability, and even her appearance. Subtle remarks often sugar-coated with concern, but loaded with passive aggressions that swirled around until they nested in Helen's mind. Her mental landscape shifted, not by hormonal changes, but by calculated design. James would second-guess her assertions in public, dismissed her opinions in conversations with friends, and often reacted to her accomplishments with cynicism disguised as logic. Through quiet whispers of doubt, he'd laced his voice with seeds of self-reproach, coaxing her gently into questioning her worth at 50, at every age. Things took a dramatic turn when Helen confided in one of her oldest friends, Margaret, who listened patiently and with a growing frown. "You've got to see a therapist, Helen," Margaret urged. "This doesn't sound like menopause. I know it's him. It's James. You're not yourself because he's made sure you wouldn't be." A revelation struck Helen, a realization sharp enough to cut through the fog of her discontent. On Margaret's insistence, Helen sought professional help, and slowly, very slowly, she began to rebuild herself from the fragments. Her sessions revealed the deep-seated emotional manipulation, the impact of James' covert psychological plays. Helen reclaimed her confidence, not just by understanding but by confronting. James' cruelty, dismantled by openness, drew its last breath in the face of her renewed strength. The transformation James had engineered began to reverse. She diverged from the path he had laid and charted her own course, full of self-discovery and empowerment. Helen had changed, an evolution ignited not by age or hormones, but by the realization of her resilience. Looking back on those turbulent months where every smile felt like a veiled ache, Helen knew she had emerged stronger, wiser.